Why do we assume that just because a religion is quote unquote dead, that it must then be false? In the modern theological meta, we treat religions without a following as automatic myths. However, something strange happens when you apply modern philosophical rigor to Greek theology. It actually holds up. Today, we'll be making a legitimate case for Greek theology and whether or not it's worth taking seriously. The current theological meta is dictated by a constant entrenched battle. Figures like Alex O'Connor and Phil Mason versus titans such as William Lane Craig and Ben Shapiro. The nuance and theological battlegrounds find themselves becoming more processed, more sophisticated, and more insulated. However, while the bastions of theological discourse continue their battle for truth, I fear something is being left behind. In this video, I'd like to take a similar rigorous approach, but for an entirely different theology, Greek theology, and I call it theology and not mythology because we're so used to labelling the great religions of old as mere myths, foolhardy tales told to ancient populations just to keep them in check, instead of the legitimate, thriving religions that they actually were. So let's take off our dogmatic glasses and really look at the religion itself. I actually needed a minute to redefine my perspective before starting this research. The monotheistic God of the modern era is framed as so powerful, so good, so loving, and so all-knowing that it feels almost alien to enter a world where the universe is a tumultuous conquest. A world where gods and spirits battled and continue to battle it out across the planes and ecosystems of Earth for supreme dominance. The Greeks were polytheistic, almost to an insane degree, ending up with more than 3,000 deities, primordials, titans, gods, daemons, nymphs. The list is preposterous. Finding a place to start in this massive pantheon is a daunting task, especially when we look at the current meta of religious debate and realise we don't have the luxury of hiding behind allegory, euphemism, or metaphor. Modern critics and apologists demand psychology, witnesses, statistics, and textual accuracy. They hunt the overall narrative for irregularities. How can we put the Greek religion in a place where it can actually stand its ground? Let's imagine then a hiereus or a hiereia, a Greek priest or priestess, stepping into the modern debate arena. Their strongest point of attack and defence would foremostly be the problem of evil. For those unaware, the problem of evil sits at the absolute forefront of religious debate. It asks, how could an all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God allow evil and suffering to happen on earth? The Greek priest would smile. Their religion fundamentally believes that the universe was formed out of chaos. Gods like Zeus, Poseidon, and Ares are born from that chaos, and they frequently harness it for their own gain. They possess human-like emotions. They can love, hate, or be entirely indifferent. They are constantly in conflict, seeking power at the expense of others. A Greek priest doesn't have to bend over backwards to make the cruelty of planet Earth match the nature of a perfectly loving deity. Polytheism merely notes horrendous events as gods locked in gargantuan conflict, or punishing mortals as they see fit. But then comes the second wave of attack. The problem of morality. The morality argument dictates that if you do not have a supreme, perfect belief system to ground your reality, then your morality is baseless. The priest again has a brilliant rebuttal here, because the Greeks actually viewed the hedonism and destruction of their own gods as morally wrong. The philosopher Democritus captured this tension perfectly, stating, "Do not say or do what is base, even if you are alone. Learn to feel shame before yourself much more than before others." Democritus argued that if you only do good out of fear of a vengeful God, you aren't actually a good person. Integrity means being responsible to yourself. By calling out their own gods for wrongdoings, the ancient Greeks proved that morality could survive and even sharpen itself in the presence of fallible deities. So we can safely say that for a good ethical system to arise, it doesn't have to be ordained by a righteous God. In spite of this, the Greeks did still have an objective morality to ground themselves when they were lost. Greek ethics were offered to the people through the oracle of Delphi, the high priestess of the temple of Apollo. Her words carried the weight of divine legitimacy. Greeks would pilgrimage to the oracle of Delphi during times of personal hardship and spiritual spiraling. The oracle's primary pillars were know thyself, nothing in excess, and surety brings ruin. These were simple and open so that people could subjectively take away what they needed most. This is an absolute testament to the fact that Greek religion wasn't a monkey see, monkey do society mirroring the reckless actions of the gods. Morality meant human beings had to be sensible, balanced and measured because recklessness was a dangerous trait reserved for deities. The Greeks favoured a less black and white system of ethics, which Christians would perhaps see as a moral victory. However, I think it shows their maturity. Morality and ethics are grey, and there are endless ways to break a fragile ethical system. So, our hypothetical Greek priest has defended their internal consistency when it comes to rationalising the human condition. They have also survived an attack on the concept that only a god can create a rigorous ethical system. Our priest has also illustrated that an objective moral system can be absolutely useful when its interpretations are open-ended. Where then is the final layer of foundation to prop up this once prosperous religion? It sits on a philosophical benchmark called external coherence, which is how well a worldview actually matches the reality we see when we look out the window. For centuries, monotheistic apologists have claimed a moral high ground by mathematical perfection, as in their God is the most good, the most loving, the most knowing, but because the day-to-day horrors of human existence flatly contradict that ontology, they have to engage in a lifetime of mass theorizing. Your framework is inherently strained if you have to spend all your energy defending or explaining away the actions of your god. A Greek priest, however, has to do zero mental gymnastics. They can simply point outward at the cosmos and say the universe is messy, the gods are messy, and we are messy. Survival of the fittest, volcanic eruptions, mass extinctions, extreme planetary environments, ants stuck in decade-long wars, and humans stuck in century-old conflicts. Through this lens, the antics proffered by the Greek gods don't look childish or made up at all. They look like a mirror. Maybe the Greeks were not naive for worshipping such a pantheon. Maybe in the grand meta battle for a religion that actually matches the chaotic beautiful, and terrifying reality of the world we live in, the ultimate victory might just belong to the ancients. You can think of this video essay as more of a monologue born of frustration. There is an inevitable tier system where Christianity, Judaism, and maybe Islam as well sit at the top, and other modern religions sit just below it. Then there is a large gap, and ancient religions take a backseat. There are reasons for this, wars being one of them, time being another. Some ancient religions obviously have no followers, so it's difficult to keep them in public discourse. However, I think it's silly to presuppose that just because a religion is quote unquote dead doesn't mean it's a false religion. It could just be as likely, for example, in the Greek theological system, that an angry god simply wiped out all of their followers in a fit of rage. Just something to think about. Anyway, thanks for listening to my ramble, and I hope to catch you in the next one.